Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Playing World of Tanks. I'm AJ, and today we'll be looking at a game that I had in my 113, which is the Chinese tier 10 heavy tank, and one of my favorite tanks in the game. I nearly don't get to play this tank enough. I don't play this or the T62 as much as I want to. I mean, if I did, I would have 1,000 games in each. I generally just am grinding something most of the time, or playing, some tank that I'm trying to 3-mark, so yeah, I mean, I nearly don't get to play these tanks enough as I want to, and I thought this was a great game to showcase just how good the 113 is at close range brawling. Now this map, Swamp, has been changed a bunch of times, and generally Wargaming in every iteration have decided to make the maps that you play on as simple as possible. They boil it down to in one of two flavors: either you all go and brawl at one position like El Haluf, or you basically go to your flanks or wherever you spawn. You basically cover one side, just make sure you kill everything, and just come back and just engage the enemy on the other side. And even then, like, people have a hard time trying to figure out what to do on a map. Now this is exactly what you should not be doing in a game if you're spawn north on Swamp. If you go to the castle, you can easily get clipped by a T-57. If you smart, a JPZ can shoot you in the side. There's so many things that can happen to you before you make it into the castle. For example, like if you take like 4 or 5 heavies, I don't know, into the castle, there's a T-57 JPZ waiting for you to shoot you in the side. You'll probably lose about 2400 HP before you actually make it into the castle. That is literally the health of 1 tier 10 heavy. So not necessarily the best idea of taking your heavy tanks south. And consequently, when I saw this map and saw how our team was deploying, I was just not happy, just because I mean, I understand people play this game for fun, and that's fine. Like, I mean, who am I to judge? But like, even after repetition, you should understand like what not to do on the map, and this is exactly what our team should not be doing. Now, as we start getting further into this game, I generally like the sudden spawn on this map, because people, even if they have no idea, generally tend to go to the castle, and generally that's a better alternative to whatever our team is doing right now. So yeah, I was just hoping that their mediums didn't rush this side, and I was the only one looking here. And the other thing was, I was not going to push forward on a scout by myself, just because I don't have vision on this tank. I mean, I do, but I really don't. I mean, I'm pretty blind as far as I'm pretty blind as far as view range is concerned. So at this point, when I see sufficient people have arrived, unfortunately it's too late. We can't push this flank quick enough now, because our force that went into the castle to do something has actually perished. Now I have to turn around and deal with them coming out. So again, one thing you have to keep in mind is that if you outnumber a flank, like, I don't know, even by 2 tanks, you need to push that flank as hard as you can. You cannot just lemming into one direction and just sit there and just wait for the enemy to do something, because what's going to happen is that the enemy is going to clean up the other flank, and then they're just going to surround you, and at that point, you have none of your flanks secured. So at least if you're going to lemming one flank, you should all lemming super hard and try to kill whatever is on it as quickly as possible. Incidentally, like, if you look at this map, the enemy did lemming one way, and they actually did crush the map super easily. They were, and incidentally, we had no force to counter that going in the opposite direction. So again, something to keep in mind in games. Now I've come back and actually finally have to fire my gun in anger for the first time, and JPZ presents a good easy shot, fire into his lower plate, pen him for damage. And now I'm just gonna stay here and figure out who to shoot next. One other thing is that there's 2 already on the enemy team, so I have to be super careful not to sit in one position for too long, or basically announce where I'm going, because they're gonna take their sweet time to shoot me as many times as they can. Again, something that you want to keep in mind, that if you're a good player, these things do tend to happen, and honestly, there's nothing you can do about it. It's just how it is. And again, I try to come around and try to deal with the enemies that are behind me, but again, our waffle just wasn't doing much, so I don't know what to tell you. Easy shot on the T10. Again, he's side on, trying to shoot somebody. I am here trying to keep the JPZ alive as long as humanly possible, because I need him to at least make a shot or two for me to do anything. Again, M41 Bulldog spotted sitting in the open. Easy shot on his side. JPZ is covering my back, so I don't have to worry about people coming behind me. I reload my second shot, and just as I fire, the M41 decides to back off, and the shell travel time on this thing gun isn't that great, so I didn't think I was gonna hit him. So I lead him this time, and this time he actually runs into the shot. Easy kill. At this point, the T10 gets taken out by our arty, and T57 basically announces where he's going, which gives me a pretty easy shot on his side. I managed to pin him and track him in the process. T54 comes to my other side. Again, I'm hoping that the tanks are taken south, eastern part of the flank, finally come around and actually decide to do something. At this point, I actually totally space out on the fact that my MRX broken. I finally realized that's the case. T54 fires into my tracks me, and that's about it. Now I can't go into that direction because I already know that T57 is probably looking over there, and JPZ is behind me, covering my back. Now, as soon as I realize that JPZ is dead, I need to turn around and deal with the enemy JPZ, because one thing I don't want is them to sort of like come behind me and shoot me. So, because that would not be that great. And at this point, I make one of the biggest mistakes is, instead of like trying to just do damage to the JPZ, which I could have actually killed pretty easily, I decided to track him, and I was so sure that I was going to track him that I don't move. And because I don't move, I take a JPZ shot, which was very painful. T57 bounces two of his shots on the upper plate. Now, how he's moving back tells me that he's actually unloaded all of his shots. So I try to take another shot at the JPZ, because I know T57 is reloading, and JPZ is probably going to reload before he does. So again, I'm going to try to track the JPZ if he comes around this corner. Again, this is a mental game. Now, if you see in the background that the T57 is moving forward, that tells to me that he's reloaded. So I need to track him, because I need him to stay in position long enough where I can actually reload, and by the time his tracks get repaired, sorry. Anyways, this shot was more unlikely than I thought it was. He somehow manages to hit my lower plate while he's moving in that direction, and he has one more shot and he bounces off my upper plate. Probably a little nerves on his part too, and somehow I don't manage to damage him while tracking him. At this point, JPZ went away, so he's by himself. I'm looking behind me every time. I'm pretty sure I must have damaged his ammo rack at some point. T57 is probably should be reloaded by now. You see a hesitation there where he decides to move forward, but then decides to go back. JPZ decides to come all the way around to shoot me again. At this point, I am more than aware of what he's doing, so I turn my entire tank around. Again, JPZ sees I'm staring straight at him, so he decides not to come forward. I decide to back off a little, and that chat comes around and finishes him off. So yeah, that was quite the interesting brawl. 5 minutes of not doing anything, running around from flank to flank, and then the last 3 minutes, all the action took place. And this was actually a game that the enemies literally threw away. If you look at the score at one point, I think we were down 4 tanks or something. It's just pretty mind-blowing how much further down we were than the enemy, and all of a sudden they just threw their advantage away by not committing simultaneously, instead coming in piecemeal and dealing with different areas one at a time. So it's pretty, it's not pretty for the enemy, but I guess I'll take a win like that. And now we have to go kill the arty. One other mistake I make at this point is that I went in alone, waiting for the other 2 tanks on my team, and I decide to take the shot on the enemy arty, and who I managed to hit. And unfortunately for me, the 261 has better aim, and he manages to finish me off. Boy, I hate arty in this game. But anyways, since both the arty fired, I think Batchat is more than fast enough to finish them both off. And you know, I think the T10 manages to finish one of them off, the M40, and that leaves the 261, who's, you know, pretty straight out in the open, and, you know, Batchat has pretty easy shots on him. Batchat rushes his first shot, you know, doesn't rush his second shot, and 261 just misses him completely, and that's all she wrote. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this game. This was not any spank or anything by any stretch of the imagination, but sometimes these kind of games happen, and I thought I would show them to you, and hopefully I'll see you in the next episode of Playing World of Tanks.